Picture this, a 12-year-old girl, vibrant and full of dreams, collapses in the middle of a Seattle schoolyard, her laughter cut short. She slips into a coma, and the best doctors in the world throw up their hands. A billionaire storms in, promising miracles with his flashy tech, but leaves empty-handed. Then, out of nowhere, a 14-year-old boy in a tattered jacket walks into the hospital, barefoot, and whispers 5 words that stop everyone cold: "I can bring her back." What happens next isn't just a story, it's a miracle that'll grip your heart and leave you speechless. Stick around, you won't believe how this ends. In the heart of Seattle, where rain paints the streets and hope battles despair, St. Joseph Hospital stands as a beacon of last chances. Here, 12-year-old Lucy Harper lies motionless in room 412, her once sparkling eyes closed for 10 agonizing days. Her chest rises and falls under a faded rainbow blanket, the only remnant of the girl who once chased stars and filled sketchbooks with dreams. Her father, Michael Carter, a 38-year-old mechanic with grease-stained hands and a heart heavy with guilt, hasn't left her side. His world, once loud with Lucy's giggles, is now a symphony of beeping monitors and whispered prayers. Michael wasn't always this man, hollowed out, clinging to his daughter's hand. He used to live for the grind, fixing engines late into the night, missing Lucy's soccer games, her art shows, her quiet pleas for a bedtime story. Now, those moments haunt him as he traces the lines of her pale face, willing her to wake. The doctors, with their clipboards and cold jargon, call it a neurogenic blackout, a rare glitch in Lucy's brain they can't unravel. "We're doing all we can," they say, but their eyes betray the truth: they've run out of answers. Yet Michael refuses to let go. He whispers to Lucy about the constellations she loves, about the summer they plan to camp under the stars. He's no saint, no hero, just a dad who traded his last breath for one more of her smiles. The nurses watch, some with pity, others with awe, as he fights a battle no one else can see. But time is slipping, and the hospital's sterile walls are closing in. Will Michael's love be enough, or is something, or someone, else needed to pull Lucy back from the edge? The rain outside St. Joseph Hospital in Seattle pounded relentlessly, a gray curtain that mirrored the gloom inside room 412. Lucy Harper, only 12 years old, lay entombed in her coma, her small frame dwarfed by the sterile bed and its tangle of tubes. The rainbow blanket draped over her was a cruel reminder of the vibrant girl who once danced through life, now reduced to a faint pulse on a monitor. Her father, Michael Carter, sat hunched beside her, his calloused hands gripping hers as if he could anchor her to this world. 10 days had passed since Lucy collapsed, and the weight of each second pressed harder on Michael's chest. The doctor's words echoed in his mind: neurogenic blackout. Rare. Unpredictable. They'd thrown every test at her, MRIs, CT scans, EEGs, but the screens showed only static, a riddle with no solution. "We're trying," they said, but their voices carried the hollowness of defeat. Michael refused to accept it. He'd spent his life fixing things, engines, transmissions, broken parts of a world that always seemed to sputter. But this? This was his daughter, not a machine. He brought her favorite stuffed bear, a worn-out thing named Mr. Paws, and tucked it beside her. He played her favorite playlist, soft indie tunes she'd hum while sketching, hoping the music might reach where medicine couldn't. The nurses, moving like ghosts in their quiet rounds, offered gentle smiles, but their eyes betrayed the truth: they were preparing for the worst. One doctor, a gray-haired neurologist named Dr. Helen Voss, pulled Michael aside on day 7. "We've consulted every specialist," she said, her voice clinical but not unkind. "There's no precedent for this. Her brain activity is minimal. You need to prepare for possibilities." Michael's jaw tightened. "She's not a possibility," he snapped. "She's my kid." The hospital became a battlefield, with Michael waging war against time and science. He barely slept, his eyes red-rimmed, his clothes rumpled from days in the same chair. He read Lucy stories from her dog-eared copy of The Secret Garden, his voice hoarse but unwavering, as if the words could pull her back. But the monitors remained stubbornly steady, their beeps a monotonous chant of futility. The other families in the ICU whispered about him, some called him devoted, others delusional. Michael didn't care. He'd failed Lucy too many times, working late, missing her moments. He wouldn't fail her now. On day 9, a new figure stormed into the hospital, his presence as disruptive as a thunderclap. Devin Langston, the billionaire tech mogul whose name plastered half the city's billboards, arrived unannounced. His tailored suit and slicked back hair stood out against the hospital's drab walls, and his entourage, 2 bodyguards and a PR assistant clutching a tablet, trailed him like shadows. Langston had built an empire on AI and biotech, and he'd seen Lucy's story on X, a fleeting post that caught his eye over morning coffee. To him, it was more than a tragedy, it was a chance to flex his influence, to prove his machines could outsmart fate. He strode into room 412, ignoring Michael's weary glare, and announced, "I'm here to save your daughter." Michael, bleary-eyed and raw, looked up. "Save her how?" Langston's smile was all teeth, the kind that sold stocks and sealed deals. "My company's developed neural mapping tech, AI that can reboot a brain like a computer. I've got the best neurologists on speed dial, flown in from Zurich, Tokyo, Boston. We'll crack this." He gestured to his assistant, who unveiled a sleek device that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie, all blinking lights and smooth chrome. "This," Langston said, "is the future. And it's free, for you." Michael's voice was low, almost a growl. "What's the catch?" Langston chuckled, adjusting his cufflinks. "No catch, Mike. Just a chance to show the world what I can do." The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of activity. Specialists in crisp white coats flooded the room, their accents a global chorus as they debated in jargon Michael couldn't follow. Machines hummed, screens glowed with 3D models of Lucy's brain, and Langston hovered like a director on a film set, barking orders and posing for the PR team's cameras. Michael watched, a knot in his gut, as they fitted Lucy with a neural headset, its wires snaking across her forehead like a crown of thorns. He hated it, the coldness, the arrogance, but he clung to the sliver of hope Langston dangled. "Will it work?" he asked one night, his voice barely above a whisper. Langston clapped him on the shoulder. "Trust me, Mike. Science doesn't lose." But science did lose. By day 10, the machines were silent, the specialists' faces grim. The AI spat out data, but none of it brought Lucy closer to waking. One by one, the experts left, their apologies as empty as their promises. Langston's confidence cracked, his smirk replaced by a scowl. "This shouldn't have happened," he muttered, more to himself than to Michael. He packed up his tech, his team, his ego, and walked out, leaving a trail of unpaid invoices and a room colder than before. Michael stood by Lucy's bed, his fists clenched, the weight of betrayal sinking in. "You're not a computer," he whispered to her, brushing a curl from her face. "You're my girl." The rain outside grew heavier, the city's pulse fading into the night. Michael sank into his chair, the fight draining from him. He'd trusted the doctors, trusted Langston, and both had failed. The hospital's clock ticked past midnight, each second a reminder that Lucy was slipping further away. He pressed his forehead to her hand, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, kid. I don't know what else to do." The monitors beeped on, indifferent, and the world felt impossibly small. But in that moment of despair, something was stirring, a presence, a whisper, a spark that science couldn't touch. Beyond the hospital's walls, under Seattle's endless rain, a boy named Caleb was already on his way, carrying a truth that would shatter everything Michael thought he knew. The sterile hum of St. Joseph Hospital's ICU was a relentless drone, punctuated only by the rhythmic beep of monitors in room 412. Outside, Seattle's rain battered the windows, a restless force that seemed to mock the stillness inside. Lucy Harper, 12 years old and silent for 10 days, lay beneath her rainbow blanket, her face pale as moonlight, her breaths shallow but steady. Michael Carter, her father, slumped in a plastic chair beside her, his mechanic's hands raw from gripping hers too long. The betrayal of Devin Langston's failed tech still stung, leaving Michael hollow, his faith in science shattered. He'd whispered every story, sung every song, but Lucy remained locked in a place he couldn't reach. The clock on the wall read 12:47 a.m., and despair clung to him like damp clothes. He was losing her, and he knew it. A soft knock on the glass door startled him. A young nurse, her badge reading Emma, peered in, her face a mix of hesitation and urgency. "Mr. Carter," she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the room's hum. "There's someone here. A boy. He says he can help Lucy." Michael's head snapped up, his eyes bloodshot and skeptical. "A boy?" he rasped, his throat dry from hours of silence. "What kind of boy shows up in the middle of the night?" Emma shifted, uneasy. "He's in the lobby. No ID, no parents. Just, insistent. I can send him away if—" Michael cut her off, standing abruptly. "Let me see him." He followed Emma down the dimly lit corridor, the hospital's fluorescent lights flickering like a bad omen. The lobby was nearly deserted, save for a lone figure on a bench, small and out of place against the polished sterility. Caleb, 14 years old, sat with his knees drawn up, his torn denim jacket patched with duct tape, his bare feet smudged with city grime. His dark hair fell unevenly over his forehead, but his eyes, sharp, clear, and unnervingly calm, locked onto Michael the moment he appeared. Michael stopped short, a chill running through him. This wasn't just a kid, there was something ancient in that gaze, something that didn't belong in a hospital at 1 a.m. "You Lucy's dad?" Caleb asked, his voice steady, almost too steady for a teenager. Michael nodded, crossing his arms. "Who are you, kid? And why are you here?" Caleb stood, barely reaching Michael's shoulder, but his presence filled the space. "I know how to wake her," he said, the words simple yet heavy, like stones dropped into still water. Michael's breath caught. "What did you say?" Caleb didn't flinch. "I can bring her back." The certainty in his tone wasn't arrogant or childish, it was absolute, as if he'd seen the outcome already. Michael's first instinct was to laugh, a bitter sound that died in his throat. He'd heard promises before, doctors with their tests, Langston with his machines. All lies. "You're a kid," he said, his voice rough. "The best doctors in the world couldn't help her. A billionaire with a room full of tech couldn't help her. What makes you think you can?" Caleb tilted his head, unfazed. "They tried to fix her body. I'm here for her soul." The words hit Michael like a punch, stirring something deep, something he hadn't touched since he stopped praying years ago. "You're crazy," he muttered, but his feet didn't move, rooted by the boy's unyielding stare. Caleb stepped closer, his bare feet silent on the cold floor. "She's not gone, Mr. Carter. She's lost, wandering somewhere dark. She's waiting for you, but she's scared. You've been talking to her, but you haven't been honest." Michael's chest tightened, guilt clawing at him. Honest? He'd told Lucy he loved her, read her stories, sung her songs. What more was there? But Caleb's eyes seemed to see through him, peeling back layers of regret, missed bedtimes, forgotten promises, the nights he chose work over her smile. "What do you mean, honest?" Michael asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Tell her the truth," Caleb said softly. "The stuff you hide, even from yourself. She needs to know why you're still fighting." Michael's knees buckled slightly, the weight of those words pressing down. Every instinct screamed to send this kid away, to call security, to cling to logic. But something older, something desperate, stirred in his gut. He thought of Lucy's laugh, her sketches, the way she'd tug his sleeve to point at the stars. He was out of options, out of hope. "All right," he said, his voice cracking. "But I'm watching you." They walked back to room 412, the hospital eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Caleb moved with purpose, slipping past the monitors and tubes to stand by Lucy's side. He placed a small, dirt-streaked hand on her forehead, his lips moving in a silent murmur, too soft for Michael to hear. The air shifted, a subtle warmth cutting through the antiseptic chill. Caleb turned to Michael, his eyes steady. "Now you," he said. "Talk to her. Not the stories. The truth." Michael hesitated, his throat tight. He sat beside Lucy, her hand fragile in his. "Lucy," he started, his voice trembling, I messed up. I wasn't there when you needed me. I was always working, always thinking there'd be time later. I missed your games, your drawings, the way you'd light up talking about the sky. I thought I was doing it for you, but I was wrong." Tears spilled down his cheeks, splashing onto the blanket. "I'm so sorry, kid. I need you to come back. I'll do better. I swear." The monitor blipped, a single, sharp note that broke the rhythm. Emma, standing by the door, gasped. Michael's head jerked up, his heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Caleb nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "She's listening." The machine blipped again, faster, a flicker of life in the numbers. Michael's breath hitched, hope clawing its way through the dark. Caleb stepped back, his job unfinished but begun, his presence a spark in a world that had gone cold. The air in room 412 of St. Joseph Hospital was thick with tension, the sterile scent of antiseptic mingling with the faint dampness of Seattle's rain seeping through the window's edges. Lucy Harper, 12 years old, lay motionless under her rainbow blanket, her coma now stretching into its 11th day. The monitors beeped with mechanical indifference, their screens casting a pale glow across her still face. Michael Carter, her father, stood frozen by her bedside, his heart pounding from the fleeting hope sparked by Caleb, the mysterious 14-year-old boy who'd just left an impossible mark. The monitor's single, sharp blip after Michael's raw confession, his admission of missed moments and buried guilt, had cracked the wall of despair. But Lucy was still silent, and Michael's hands trembled as he clung to her small, limp fingers. Caleb, standing quietly near the foot of the bed, his bare feet stark against the polished floor, watched with eyes that seemed to hold secrets older than his years. The clock ticked past 1:15 a.m., and the hospital felt like a world suspended, waiting for something to break. Caleb's voice cut through the silence, soft but commanding. "She heard you, Mr. Carter," he said, his gaze fixed on Lucy. "But words aren't enough now. She needs the song." Michael blinked, confusion etching his weary face. "Song?" he croaked, his throat raw from tears and sleepless nights. Caleb nodded, stepping closer, his torn jacket brushing against the bed frame. "The one you used to sing to her, before everything changed. Before you stopped." Michael's breath hitched, a memory clawing its way to the surface, a memory of warmer nights, when Lucy was 5, curled up in his lap, her mother's laughter still echoing in their small apartment. The lullaby, a simple melody his own grandmother had sung, was their ritual, a thread tying them to a time when the world felt whole. "Under the stars, where dreams don't fade," he whispered, the words tasting like dust. He hadn't sung it since the car accident that took Lucy's mom 4 years ago, since grief had buried his voice under layers of work and silence. "I can't," Michael said, shaking his head, his voice breaking. "It's been too long. I don't even know if I remember it right." Caleb's eyes softened, but his tone was firm. "You remember. She remembers. It's the light she's following now." Michael looked at Lucy, her dark curls fanned across the pillow, her chest rising so faintly it seemed the blanket might swallow her. The weight of Caleb's words pressed against his chest, mingling with the guilt he'd just poured out. He'd failed her as a father, but this song, was something he could give her, something no doctor or machine could touch. The nurse, Emma, hovered by the door, her eyes wide, caught between skepticism and awe. The room felt charged, as if the universe itself was leaning in, waiting. Michael swallowed hard, his hands shaking as he pulled the chair closer to Lucy's bed. He brushed a stray curl from her forehead, his fingers lingering on her cool skin. "Okay, kid," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "For you." He cleared his throat, the sound ragged in the quiet, and began, his voice trembling like a frayed string. "Under the stars, where dreams don't fade, we'll find our way through the midnight shade." The notes were shaky, off-key, but they carried a raw honesty that filled the room. Michael's eyes stung, tears blurring his vision as he pushed through, the melody unearthing memories of Lucy's tiny hand in his, her sleepy giggles, the way she'd hum along. "Hold tight, my love, the dawn's not far, we'll chase the light of the morning star." The monitors responded before anyone else did. A second blip, then a third, faster than before, the numbers on the screen climbing in a stuttering dance. Emma gasped, her clipboard slipping slightly in her hands. "Mr. Carter," she whispered, her heart rate, it's spiking. Michael's voice faltered, but Caleb's hand touched his shoulder, light but steady. "Keep going," the boy said, his voice a quiet anchor. Michael nodded, tears streaming down his face, and sang louder, his voice growing stronger with each word. "Through shadows deep, where fears may roam, my heart will guide you, bring you home." The room seemed to hum, the air vibrating with something beyond sound, a warmth, a pulse, a presence that defied the cold machinery. Lucy's fingers twitched, a small, deliberate movement that sent Michael's heart into his throat. He stopped singing, his breath catching, but Caleb shook his head. "Don't stop. She's close." Michael gripped Lucy's hand, his voice now a desperate plea woven into the melody. Under the stars, where dreams don't fade, the monitors were alive now, their beeps no longer a monotone but a frantic chorus, the screens flashing with spikes in brain activity. Emma rushed to the bedside, her hands hovering over the equipment, unsure whether to call for help or stand in awe. Lucy's eyelids fluttered, not opening but trembling, as if she were fighting her way through a veil. Michael's voice broke, sobs mingling with the lyrics, but he didn't stop. "We'll chase the light of the morning star." The room felt like it was holding its breath, the rain outside fading to a distant murmur. Caleb stepped back, his face serene, his job nearly done. "She's finding you," he whispered, his voice so soft it barely reached Michael's ears. The monitors hit a crescendo, then settled into a new rhythm, not the dull routine of the past 10 days, but something alive, something hopeful. Lucy's hand tightened around Michael's, a faint squeeze that sent him reeling. "Lucy," he gasped, leaning over her, his tears falling onto her blanket. "Baby, can you hear me?" Her lips parted, a shallow breath escaping, but her eyes remained closed. Emma, now openly crying, scribbled notes, her hands shaking. This shouldn't be possible," she stammered. Michael looked to Caleb, his voice hoarse. "What's happening? Is she coming back?" Caleb's smile was small, almost sad. "She's trying. You gave her a reason to." He moved toward the door, his bare feet silent, his torn jacket catching the light. "Wait!" Michael called, but Caleb raised a hand. "Keep singing, Mr. Carter. She's not all the way home yet." Before Michael could stand, Caleb slipped into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind him. Michael turned back to Lucy, his heart a tangle of hope and fear. He sang again, softer now, the lullaby a lifeline stretched across the dark. "Hold tight, my love, the dawn's not far." The monitors held their new rhythm, a fragile promise in a room that had known only loss. Michael didn't know if Caleb was real, a dream, or something divine, but he knew one thing: his daughter was fighting, and he wouldn't let her fight alone. The rain outside slowed to a drizzle, and in room 412, a spark of light flickered, refusing to fade. Lucy's fighting, her heart beating stronger, thanks to a mysterious boy and a father's song. But this isn't just their story, it's yours too. Have you ever felt a moment where love defied the odds? A time when a voice, a touch, or a memory pulled someone back from the edge? Share it in the comments, we're reading every word. Hit that like button if you believe in miracles, and smash subscribe to follow Lucy's journey. Don't let this story end here, share it with someone who needs hope. Let's keep the light alive together. The rain had softened to a faint patter outside St. Joseph Hospital, but inside room 412, the air was electric with questions that hung unanswered. Lucy Harper, still locked in her coma at 12 years old, had stirred, her fingers twitching, her heart rate climbing after her father, Michael Carter, poured his soul into a lullaby at the urging of Caleb, a mysterious 14-year-old boy who'd vanished into the Seattle night. The monitors in the room, once monotonous, now pulsed with a tentative rhythm, a fragile sign that Lucy was fighting to return. Michael sat by her side, his eyes fixed on her pale face, the rainbow blanket rising and falling with her shallow breaths. The memory of Caleb's calm certainty, his cryptic words, his barefoot exit, burned in Michael's mind. Who was this kid? How did he know Lucy's song, her story, her need? The clock read 2:03 a.m., and the hospital's quiet was oppressive, as if the walls themselves were holding secrets. Michael's gaze darted to the door, half expecting Caleb to reappear, but the hallway beyond the glass was empty, its fluorescent lights casting long, sterile shadows. He turned to Emma, the nurse who'd witnessed the monitor's sudden shift, her face still pale with disbelief. "That boy," Michael said, his voice rough, "where'd he go?" Emma shook her head, clutching her clipboard like a shield. I don't know. He was gone when I checked the lobby. No one saw him leave." Michael's jaw tightened. "Check the cameras. He didn't just disappear." Emma hesitated, then nodded, hurrying to the nurse's station to call security. Michael sank back into his chair, his hands trembling. Caleb's words echoed, asterisk, "She's trying. You gave her a reason, asterisk, but what did that mean? And why did a kid with no shoes and a torn jacket hold the key to his daughter's life?" Minutes later, Emma returned with a security guard, a burly man named Torres whose frown deepened as he spoke. "We checked the footage, Mr. Carter. Lobby, hallways, exits, nothing. No kid matching your description. Not a trace." Michael stood, his voice rising. "That's impossible. He was here. He touched her, talked to me. You saw him." He pointed at Emma, who shifted uncomfortably. "I saw someone," she admitted, her voice small. "But I was focused on Lucy's vitals. I didn't get a good look." Torres shrugged, his tone flat. "Cameras don't lie. Maybe you were tired, stressed. It's late." Michael's fists clenched, anger flaring. "I'm not crazy. He was real." The dismissal stung, but doubt crept in. Michael hadn't slept properly in days, his mind frayed by grief and guilt. Had he imagined Caleb? The thought dissolved as he looked at Lucy, her monitors still showed elevated activity, her fingers still curled slightly from their earlier twitch. No, Caleb had been here. Something had shifted when he spoke, when he urged Michael to sing. Michael paced the room, his boots scuffing the floor, his mind racing. He needed answers, not just for himself, but for Lucy, who was clinging to life by a thread he didn't fully understand. A soft cough broke his thoughts. An older janitor, his name tag reading, Sam, leaned against a mop in the doorway, his weathered face lit by the hallway's glow. "Heard you talking about a boy," Sam said, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. Michael turned, wary. "You know something?" Sam glanced around, then stepped closer, his eyes darting to Lucy's bed. "Not the first time I've heard about a kid like that around here. Years back, maybe 18, there was a patient in the old wing, cancer, terminal. Family gave up, but a boy showed up, no shoes, ragged clothes. Sat with her, talked soft, like he knew her. Next day, she was sitting up, eating. Doctors called it a fluke, but I saw him. Never caught his name." Michael's pulse quickened. "Was it Caleb?" Sam shrugged, his expression unreadable. "Didn't say. He was gone by morning, no record, no nothing. Like he was never here. Michael's mouth went dry. Why didn't you tell anyone? Sam chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Who'd believe me? I'm just the guy with the mop. He paused, then added, but that girl. She said the boy told her to listen for the light. Sound familiar? Michael froze. Caleb had said Lucy was finding him, following his song. The parallel was too close, too eerie. He turned back to Lucy, his heart pounding. On her bedside table, half hidden under Mr. Paws, her stuffed bear, was a folded scrap of paper. Michael hadn't noticed it before. He reached for it, his fingers trembling, and unfolded it. In crooked, childish handwriting were 4 words, asterisk keep singing. She's close, asterisk. Michael's breath caught, his eyes scanning the room as if Caleb might be hiding in the shadows. Where'd this come from? He demanded, holding the note up. Emma shook her head, bewildered. I didn't see anyone leave it. Sam raised an eyebrow but said nothing, retreating into the hallway with his mop. Michael clutched the note, its weight far heavier than its size. Caleb wasn't just a kid, he was something else, something that defied the hospital's cameras, its rules, its reality. Michael knelt beside Lucy, his voice a whisper. You're coming back, aren't you? Her monitors answered with another subtle spike, a silent affirmation. He thought of Caleb's eyes, too old for his face, and Sam's story of a boy who brought light to the dying. Was Caleb a ghost? A guardian? A fragment of Michael's own desperation? The questions swirled, but one truth anchored him: Lucy was responding, and Caleb was the spark. He tucked the note into his pocket, a talisman against doubt, and leaned closer to Lucy. I'm here, kid, he said, his voice steadier now. I'm not stopping. The rain outside slowed, the hospital's hum fading into a distant pulse. Michael didn't pray often, but tonight, he closed his eyes and sent a silent plea to whatever force had sent Caleb. The answer wasn't clear, but Lucy's next breath was deeper, her fingers curling ever so slightly, and in that moment, Michael knew, the boy wasn't done with them yet. The pre-dawn hours draped St. Joseph Hospital in a hush, the Seattle rain reduced to a faint drizzle that streaked the windows of room 412. Inside, the dim glow of monitors cast fleeting shadows across Lucy Harper's face, her 12-year-old body still tethered to the limbo of her coma, now in its 12th day. The rainbow blanket over her chest rose and fell with breaths that seemed too delicate to hold life. Michael Carter, her father, sat vigil, his mechanic's hands clasped tightly around hers, the scrap of paper bearing Caleb's cryptic note, asterisk keep singing. She's close asterisk, burning a hole in his pocket. The monitors, once stubbornly flat, now flickered with irregular spikes, a Morse code of hope that kept Michael's heart from breaking entirely. Caleb, the enigmatic 14-year-old who'd ignited this shift, was gone, his absence as baffling as his presence. Yet his impact lingered, a current running through the room, urging Michael to hold fast. The clock read 4:22 a.m., and the world felt poised on a knife's edge, teetering between miracle and loss. Michael's eyes, red-rimmed and heavy, traced Lucy's features, her closed lids, her pale lips, the faint freckles she'd always hated but he adored. The lullaby he'd sung hours ago, spurred by Caleb's command, had drawn her closer, her fingers twitching, her vitals stirring. But she was still out of reach, and the weight of that distance crushed him. He'd confessed his failures, sung her song, and now he was running out of ways to fight. The janitor's tale of a boy like Caleb, the empty security footage, the mysterious note, all swirled in his mind, blurring the line between reality and something greater. He leaned forward, his voice a hoarse whisper. Lucy, I'm right here. You're not alone. The monitors answered with a single, sharp blip, as if she'd heard him from across a vast divide. A soft creak broke the silence, the door to room 412 easing open. Emma, the nurse, slipped in, her face etched with exhaustion but her eyes bright with urgency. Mr. Carter, she said, her voice low, her EEGs showing new patterns. It's not random anymore, there's intention. Michael's head snapped up, his pulse racing. Intention? What does that mean? Emma moved to the monitor, her fingers hovering over the screen where jagged lines danced in a rhythm unlike anything before. It means her brain's trying to communicate. She's not just reacting, she's reaching out. Michael's breath caught, hope and fear colliding. Is she waking up? Emma hesitated, her professionalism warring with awe. I've never seen this in a case like hers. But something's happening. Michael stood, his chair scraping the floor, and leaned over Lucy, his hands trembling as he cupped her face. Lucy, baby, can you hear me? Come on, you're so close. The monitors surged again, the beeps quickening, a chorus that drowned out the hospital's hum. Emma's eyes widened, and she reached for the call button, but before she could press it, Lucy's lips parted. A sound, faint, barely a breath, escaped. Dad, Michael froze, his heart slamming against his ribs. The word was fragile, a thread stretched across an abyss, but it was hers. Lucy, he gasped, his voice breaking as he leaned closer, tears spilling down his cheeks. I'm here, I'm right here. Emma rushed to Lucy's side, checking her pulse, her eyes darting between the girl and the monitors. Her vitals are stabilizing, stronger than they've been in days, she said, her voice trembling with disbelief. Lucy's eyelids fluttered, not fully open but quivering, as if wrestling with the weight of the dark. Her hand, so limp for so long, tightened around Michael's, a deliberate grip that sent him reeling. He sobbed, pressing his forehead to hers, his words tumbling out in a rush. You're doing it, kid. You're coming back. Don't stop now. The room pulsed with energy, the air thick with something unspoken, a warmth, a light, a force that seemed to push back the sterile cold. Emma, now openly crying, adjusted the monitors, her hands shaking. I need to get Dr. Voss, she said, but her feet didn't move, rooted by the impossibility unfolding before her. Michael barely heard her, his world narrowing to Lucy's face, to the faint rise of her chest, to the whisper of her voice. Dad, she murmured again, clearer this time, and her eyes cracked open, a sliver of hazel catching the light. Michael choked on a laugh, a sound raw with joy and relief. That's it, Lucy. Look at me. I've got you. Her gaze was unfocused, drifting, but it was hers, and it was enough to shatter the fear that had gripped him for days. He reached into his pocket, pulling out Caleb's note, its crooked words a lifeline. You were right, he whispered, as if the boy could hear him. She's close. But the thought of Caleb brought a new urgency. Michael turned to Emma, his voice urgent. The boy, Caleb. We need to find him. He did this. Emma's face clouded with confusion. Mr. Carter, I told you, there's no record of him. The cameras, Michael cut her off, his tone fierce. I don't care about the cameras. He was here, and he knew how to reach her. Emma nodded, more to calm him than to agree, and stepped into the hallway to call security again. Michael turned back to Lucy, his hands framing her face. You're so strong, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You heard me, didn't you? Lucy's lips moved, a faint smile flickering, and she whispered, the boy, he sang too. Michael's heart stopped. Caleb, he asked, leaning closer. Lucy's nod was barely perceptible, her voice a thread. He was there, in the dark. Smelled like rain, and cookies. Said you were waiting. Michael's tears fell onto her blanket, his mind reeling. Caleb hadn't just guided him, he'd reached Lucy, somehow, in a place no one else could. Emma returned, her face pale. Security's checking again, but nothing. No sign of him. Michael didn't respond, his focus on Lucy, whose breathing was steadier now, her color returning in faint patches. He brushed her hair back, his voice a vow. I'll find him, Lucy. I'll thank him. But even as he said it, a strange certainty settled in his chest. Caleb wasn't meant to be found, not in the way Michael wanted. The boy was a fleeting spark, a catalyst for something bigger than explanations. The monitors settled into a strong, steady rhythm, their beeps no longer frantic but confident. Lucy's eyes closed again, but this time it was rest, not retreat. Michael held her hand, his sobs quieting into a trembling smile. The rain outside stopped, the first rays of dawn piercing the clouds, and in room 412, a miracle took root, fragile but undeniable. Caleb's shadow lingered, not in the room, but in the light now shining through Lucy's fight, and Michael knew, whatever Caleb was, he'd changed everything. The dawn light seeped into room 412, painting Lucy Harper's rainbow blanket with a soft glow. Her eyes, open for fleeting moments, had closed again in restful sleep, but her steady breaths were a victory Michael Carter clung to. The mysterious Caleb, the barefoot boy who'd sparked this miracle, was gone, leaving only his note and a lingering sense of wonder. Michael, his heart raw but alight with purpose, knew this wasn't just a story of survival, it was a call to change. He left the hospital for the first time in days, driven by a vision. In Seattle's gritty South Side, he sold his old pickup and cashed out his savings, pouring every dollar into a community center called Starlight Voices. It was a haven for kids like Lucy, those facing trauma, loss, or illness, where music and art could mend what medicine couldn't. Lucy, still weak but smiling, painted the center's first mural, a boy in a torn jacket, his hand outstretched, captioned, "He carried light, not wings." Their story didn't stay quiet. Michael and Lucy launched a YouTube channel, Caleb's Light, uploading raw footage of their journey, Lucy's sketches, Michael's trembling songs, their shared tears. Within weeks, it exploded, millions watching, sharing, crying. Messages poured in from across the globe, a nurse in Ohio who sang to her patients, a teen in Lagos who found hope in Lucy's smile. "This is bigger than us," Michael told Lucy, his voice thick with awe. The narrator's voice rises, urgent, "This miracle isn't just theirs, it's yours to spread. Share this video with someone who needs a spark. Comment your story of hope, we're reading every one. Hit like, subscribe, and let's light up the world together." The screen pulses with comments, shares, a montage of faces touched by Lucy's fight, urging viewers to join the movement. As Seattle's skyline glittered under a rare clear sky, Michael and Lucy stood on the community center's roof, staring at the stars she'd always loved. Lucy, now stronger, clutched a sketch of Caleb, her fingers tracing his smile. "He's still out there, Dad," she whispered, helping someone else. Michael nodded, his heart full. Caleb, boy, angel, or miracle, hadn't just saved Lucy, he'd rekindled a truth buried in Michael's grief: love speaks louder than fear. The narrator's voice softens, resonant. Lucy's awakening wasn't just a medical anomaly, it was a reminder that a song, a hand, a moment can pull us back from the dark. Caleb showed us that miracles don't need names or proof, only faith. Life lesson: don't wait for a crisis to show love. Call your family, sing to your kids, write that letter you've delayed. Your voice could be someone's lifeline. The screen fades to Lucy's mural, the words, "You're not lost, you're just not finished yet," glowing in bold blue. The narrator's final call: live like Caleb, carry light, wherever you go. The lullaby hums softly, stars twinkle, and the video ends with a quiet, powerful truth: love is the miracle that never fades.